Good morning, students. In today's session, I am going to deal with cross-pollination or allogamy. In previous session, I already told you the definition of pollination, types of pollination, self-pollination or autogamy, and the conditions for self-pollination with advantages and disadvantages. In today's session, allogamy or cross-pollination, their different types, advantages and disadvantages we are going to cover. Cross-pollination is defined as the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower. Now here, if the flowers are growing on the same plant, it is known as geitonogamy. And if the two flowers belongs to different plants of the same species, it is called xenogamy. So under cross-pollination or allogamy, you need to remember two types: geitonogamy, xenogamy. Geitonogamy is similar to autogamy or self-pollination because there is no variation occurring as both flowers belongs to same plant, but it mimics xenogamy by transferring pollen grains of one flower to the stigma of another flower. But in xenogamy, the main advantage is the two different plants of the same species will bring about favorable variations, because variations are the raw materials for natural selection which is necessary in the evolutionary process that we are going to deal in the next unit. So hope it is clear now. Pollination, either autogamy or allogamy. Autogamy is known as self-pollination. Allogamy is further classified as geitonogamy and xenogamy. As two flowers are involved and gamete is non-motile, hence they needed agents to transfer pollen grains from one flower to another flower. So there are two types of agents involved in the cross-pollination. Biotic means living agents, example animals. Abiotic means non-living agents, either wind or water. First, I will deal with pollination with the help of animals. Now there are four different types of animals which are involved in the transfer of pollen grains from one flower to the another flower. Insects, birds, bats and the snails. So when animals are involved in pollination, it is known as zoophily. So flowers pollinated by animals are called zoophilous flowers. Now there are specific features we can see in zoophilous flowers. For example, the flowers are conspicuous, means very big and easily differentiated so that animals can locate them. Second, the petals of these flowers are bright in color so that animals are attracted towards it. Not only this, the flowers will have a fragrance, and when animals visit the flowers, a specific reward is given to them. So to achieve those rewards, definitely animals will come to the flowers. Now these rewards are in the form of nectar, a sweet sugary fluid which is collected at the base of the ovary. It is called nectary, and the pollen grains which gives specific nourishment to the animals to complete their life cycle. So the pollen grains and the nectar, these are the rewards given to the visiting animals. So zoophilous flowers are conspicuous and big in size. They have bright color, they have fragrance, they give reward in the form of pollen grains and the nectar. They produce sticky spiny pollen grains grains so that they can easily attach to the body of the animal. And stigma is highly receptive. So this question will come for 3 marks. Explain the features of zoophilous flowers. Now, further, for neat examination, please remember these words. Zoophilous flowers are categorized into 4 groups. If insects are pollinating the flowers, we call them as entomophilous flowers, and the process is called entomophily. When birds are involved in transferring pollen grains, it is known as ornithophily, and the flowers are ornithophilous. When bats are involved in pollination, it is chiropterophily, and the flowers are chiropterophilous. When snails are involved in transferring pollen grains, it is malacophily, and the flowers are called as malacophilous. So, 4 types of zoophily. Number 1, entomophily, insect is the agent. Ornithophily, bird is the agent. Chiropterophily, bat is the agent. And malacophily, snail is the agent. Is it clear? Most of the flowers are pollinated by insects. Let us come to the next group of agent. When wind is carrying the pollen grains, then flowers are said to be anemophilous. So, when wind is involved in pollination, it is known as anemophily. Anemophilous flowers also have specific features. The flowers are inconspicuous and small in size. So, naturally, animals cannot locate them. So, they have to take help of wind. They produce large number of pollen grains which are light in weight so that wind can easily carry them. Stigma is either bifid, feathery or sticky so that when wind carries the pollen grains, stigma can easily receive them. Apart from that, they never have bright color. They are unable to produce nectar or fragrance. Because of this, animals are not attracted toward these flowers. So, what are the conditions for anemophilous flowers? Number 1, they are small and inconspicuous, no bright colors, no nectar, no fragrance, but number of pollen grains generated are many. They are light in weight. Stigma of anemophilous flower is bifid, feathery or sticky. Most of the plants belongs to grass family. Okay, family name is Gramineae. Is pollinated by the wind. Let us come to hydrophily. Hydro referring water. So when pollination is with the help of water, we call hydrophily. Now, the hydrophytes, the plants which are growing in water, maybe fresh water or marine water. Okay, these hydrophytes definitely take help of water. Then the flowers are said to be hydrophilous flowers. As per the syllabus, we will take 2 examples. First example is Vallisneria. It is a freshwater species. This plant is dioecious, means unisexual. Male plant will produce inflorescence, and the type of inflorescence is spadix. So when the inflorescence is mature, the flowers are released in the water. They come to the surface of the water which have tepals. Total 3 tepals they have perianth. So 2 tepals will fold. So it will help the flower to float on the water surface. 1 tepal gets coiled. Because of this, the anther is raised at the higher level, above the water level. Clear? Female plant will produce solitary flowers. They don't have inflorescence. So when the flower is produced, it has a long pedicel. Pedicel is the stalk of the flower. So female plant will raise the flower above the water level with the help of long pedicel. So as the female flower is visible, it is called pistillate flower. The male flowers which are floating on the surface, okay, they mimic snails so that birds will not eat them. So these passively floating flowers come near the female flower, or when they reach near female flower, they burst their anthers and release the pollen grains on the stigma. As soon as stigma receives the pollen grains, the pedicel gets called and flower is taken back and for further activity. There is another plant called as zostria or seagrass. It is a marine plant submerged. This plant is monoecious. It releases pollen grains in water. These pollen grains are spiny, needle-like, without exine. So these needle-shaped pollen grains imbibe the water. They swells, they get coiled and they start sinking down. So the sinking pollen grains received by the mature stigma and further activity continues. So in today's session, we have already covered cross-pollination or allogamy, geitonogamy, xenogamy, agents involved in cross-pollination. Based on that, there are three groups we have made: zoophily, anemophily, hydrophily. Zoophilous flowers, characters are studied. Anemophilous flowers, characters are studied. And under hydrophily, I took two examples. One is Vallisneria and other is Zostria. So based on this, the question is definitely going to appear either